Hello, welcome to another Facebook Live episode with me, Big B, the anti-lawyer. So today, what I'm going to hit up is my analysis of Conor McGregor's antics last night at the Barclays Center leading up to UFC 223. If you're a fight fan, I'm sure you've heard of it. Even if you're not, you've likely heard about it. It was on the front page of CNN.com this morning. What happened was, to go back even a few more days, but Khabib Nurmagomedov is undefeated. Him and Conor have been kind of jawing at each other for a while. Khabib runs into one of Conor's training partners from Straight Blast Gym in Dublin, Ireland, our team Lobov. They kind of got into it, nothing like super physical, but it was somewhat, I think, a bully antic on part of Khabib, and so Conor took exception to that, showed up at the Barclays Center yesterday for some pre-event for UFC 223 when the fighters were there. And Conor with 30 guys accosted the bus that was leaving that had Khabib Nurmagomedov in it. Conor runs up, grabs a trolley or a hand truck, throws it at the window, smashes the window, and injures a few of the fighters inside the vehicle. And then he actually throws something again. And I want to tell you what I think from a legal standpoint as we see the four things that are going to fall, I think, as a result of this. So number one, criminal charges have already been laid against Conor and one of his friends. Two, what we'll see happen with the New York State Athletic Commission. Three, civil suits. And then four, possible UFC discipline. So the criminal charges, so we know Conor's already been hit with 3 counts of assault and 1 count of criminal mischief. The 3 counts of assault relate to him smashing the window and then the window injuring, probably among other people's, but Michael Chiesa and Ray Borg. So both of those guys were set to fight on the card. Chiesa was set to fight Anthony Pettis. Borg was set to fight Brandon Moreno. Both of them are now off the card. New York State Athletic Commission has pulled off of them for injuries, whether it's glass injury to the eye or to the face. So those 2 fights are off. So those criminal charges of assault, each can go a year in prison and then also up to $1,000 fine. And then the criminal mischief relates to the damage done to the bus, and that can hold up to 7 years. And then Conor's friend Cowley was hit with the exact same charges. And so we'll see what happens. I think for sure New York State is going to hit Conor with some sort of criminal punishment. I don't think it's going to be the ones that were necessarily laid. I think we're going to see that he pleads to something much less. Conor doesn't have any criminal background in the United States. Pretty sure he doesn't have one in Ireland either. So I think what we'll see is the felony criminal mischief. I think that's going to be gone. He'll end up with something like a bunch of community service and a hefty fine, maybe some probation or something like that. And then as far as the New York State Athletic Commission goes, we're going to see what they do. Well, and that's the regulating body for combat sports within the state of New York. And they license the fighters, the promoters, which UFC is obviously a promoter, to hold events within the state of New York. And so they have the ability to obviously hand out fines and or suspensions for conduct like this as it relates to an event that they have licensed. So what they can do is obviously yank people's licenses and they can fine them. I think we're going to probably see one or both. I don't think the UFC is going to get fined or sanctioned at all, but who knows? I mean, the UFC fought forever and tirelessly to get MMA legalized in the state of New York, and this is the last thing they wanted. I heard some people saying like they think this was staged, that Conor, how do you get through all these levels of security if it wasn't, and this is to promote. Man, I think that's such a ridiculous statement to make. There's no way that these guys that are friggin' billionaires are going to put the company they worked their asses off on to try to do something like that to promote a fight. That fight promotes itself. So I don't think anything will really happen. But you know what? New York State might slap them with a big fine and then institute some other things down the road if another event is held there, such as making sure that they got extra security or the like. So number 3, civil suits. So who would have the ability to file a civil suit? Well, it would be anyone that was negatively affected as it relates to Conor's antics. So what we can see is Michael Chiesa, Ray Borg, Anthony Pettis, Brandon Moreno, Alex Sierras, anybody else that's been removed off those cards. So all those fighters have been removed off the card. Now, Anthony Pettis, I just read that Pettis is trying to make weight to fight Khabib Nurmagomedov now because the New York State Athletic Commission has pulled Holloway off and wouldn't let him make weight. I think he's just probably looking too sickly and trying to make weight. But regardless, what would be the damages they have? Well, each fighter, most of the time, and there are exceptions to these contracts, their contract will have money for them to show for the fight, to walk in the cage and fight, money to win if they win the fight, bonus money paid out by Reebok. Also, they're up for like fight of the night bonuses. And then talk about all the expenses they put in training camp and everything. All of those expenses can be damages in their civil suit against Conor and or maybe the UFC. So we'll see what happens. I mean, the UFC could be like, hey, you know what, we want to swipe this all under the rug. I don't think that's likely though, because Dana's come out and he's made it very, very clear that he's unhappy with Conor. So on the flip, you know, you might see Conor try to wrap this up really tight. Obviously, he's got money to make this go away quick and fast. And I think that's what you'll probably see on the civil side of things. So then we got what the UFC will do for discipline. Now, you know, we talk about this incident, I think, is fighter safety. And that's one thing I believe, and I don't know Dana White personally, but from what I hear and what I read, I think that's probably one of his biggest battles is he wants to make sure all of his fighters on that roster are safe. Argue what you want about the compensation, but I do believe fighter safety is number one. And he's already exhibited that with 2 suspensions in the past. Paul Daly, way back in the day, struck Josh Koscheck after the fight had ended. Guy never fought again in the UFC. And then Paul Harris, he held onto a leg lock a couple times way too long. And Dana White was like, no, it's fighter safety, and he's gone. Now, I don't think that they're going to ban Conor from the UFC. You're going to see Conor fight in the UFC again for sure, but I think you're going to see the UFC do something because Dana White and those guys fought so hard and tirelessly to get that promotion and obviously the sport of mixed martial arts legalized in the state of New York. And this is the exact thing that they've been fighting against. This is the exact thing they never wanted to happen within their organization. This is the exact sort of image that has tarnished that particular sport and they've been moving it away from. So I think that this is the time for them to make a strong statement with all the fighters and saying, listen man, this behavior isn't going to be tolerated. But civil suits, New York State Athletic Commission, what UFC does, I think all of that waits until the criminal charges pan out. Now, interesting thing, and again, I'm not condoning the behavior at all, but think about this. We got Khabib Nurmagomedov from Russia. We got Conor McGregor, the loudmouthed Irishman with more charisma than you can shake a stick at. And these guys now, their beef is monumental, okay? In Russia, MMA is huge. It's like hockey in Canada or baseball in the United States. So you put that fight in Russia, you bring in that hated Irishman and all of those fans, I think you got maybe the biggest pay-per-view fight in UFC history. Now, I think that'll happen at some point in time. How long it takes for all of these things to get ironed out, it'll be interesting, and we'll see how it plays out over time. But I think that fight, it'll be made some point in Russia, and it'll be the first fight in Russia. There's just so much going on there that it'll happen. It'll just might take some time. So again, with this video today, the first 5 people to share the video and to tag friends within the video will get contacted by my office through Facebook on Monday for gender, shirt size, whether it's a tank top or a t-shirt. We also have t-shirts for kids. So please do that. As always, I appreciate your support. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. And until next Friday, oh, and I almost forgot, Fox Sports 910. I'm the legal expert on that show with Jody on the drive home and also Bo. So when you get a chance, we're recording that today, or I'm recording with them today, I should say, at 2 o'clock, and that'll play on the ride home. So please tune into that. Today's topic is going to be Miller, the University of Arizona basketball coach, is restructuring his contract. Well, the Board of Regents are going to vote on that today. So that's a very interesting topic. So please tune into that. As always, I appreciate the support. I appreciate everyone tuning in. And until next Friday, this is Big B, the Anti-Lawyer.